We decided to build something that no one's ever done before.
What started as a treehouse for our honeymoon has turned into the #1 treehouse brand in the country.
And it has been a wild ride.
From being run out of town
to a lawsuit with the government.
And even being homeless and living in a tent.
This is our 10-year overnight success story. So before I built the first treehouse with my dad on the family farm, I was busy, like touring the world with my band Need to Breathe, and just in city after city, just surrounded by the noise and I guess the busyness of life. And I noticed something each time I would get back out into nature and just be surrounded by beauty. It would fundamentally bring out the best in me. My stress would go down. I would be inspired again and just feel on top of the world. Like I noticed just how good it was for my spirit and my soul.
I was working in broadcast news as an aspiring entertainment reporter. Keyword there, aspiring. I was working behind the scenes, earning my stripes. I was producing the 5 a.m. newscast, which meant I had the graveyard shift, and I would go to work at 10 p.m. My shift would technically be over by 8, but because I really cared and wanted to get ahead, I would stay and shadow reporters and end up working till noon. The way I got out of news was I interviewed this band called Need to Breathe.
Hey, it's producer Tori with BTS Behind the Scenes, but today we're not in the Fox 26 newsroom. We are actually behind the scenes backstage with the guys from Need to Breathe. Hey guys.
And that's how Seth and I met.
Great interview. And I don't feel like I was really on the fast track towards accomplishing my goals and realizing my dreams until I met Tori.
I knew I wanted to find love and get married, have a family, but I committed from a very early age to not settle. I'm like, I will not settle. Even before we were thinking about tree houses, even if it was music and news, I knew that together we would accomplish more than we would on our own. It was 8 months from our first date to our wedding day. That's crazy to say out loud. We moved fast.
I even called my brother and I was like, hey, I'm gonna marry this girl and we're gonna get married pretty fast. He's like, dude, that's crazy. So I got the idea for the treehouse in 2013, and what was going on in the world at that time is smartphones were starting to be used for work, and so now your work wasn't at a place, it was wherever you were. Work was seeping into every nook and cranny of life, and this was the early days of that. People need to be able to step away from this, to just gather themselves and remind themselves of why they're doing what they're doing. And so we got married on the farm and we honeymooned in the treehouse that was built by hand by my dad and myself. First I was solving for my need, but then I realized, you know what? This is something that the world needs. We actually can provide a ton of value to the world.
I think when people are feeling burnout, it's easy to say, oh, I've got to make some dramatic changes, right? I've got to make some drastic changes in my life. But in reality, based off my experience, it's just, you need to refill your cup. Just a couple days in the treehouse really did that for us. And I think that made a light bulb go off for me. I'm like, other people can benefit from this. They don't need to quit their job or move, or they just need a few days to recenter.
When the idea came to me to build a treehouse, I was inspired by Pete Nelson from Treehouse Masters and wanted to take that concept and do my own thing with it and make it even more over the top.
It's pretty wild that nature has always existed, right? As have nice things and luxury living, and yet no one really paired the two together. So it was on our honeymoon in the treehouse that we spent uninterrupted time just talking and dreaming, journaling, and praying about what our life would look like. We're this brand new couple setting out, and after we zoomed out and looked at our notes and everything we had written, we were like, all of this points to building more places like this. We'll be building our lives as we create these places, and then we can also share it with others, because I know that other couples need this. You've jumped up and have created this beautiful treehouse, and I'm like, all right, now let's make it the most popular one in the state. I know news stations would eat this up. We've got to get this out on all the outlets. And we started small. Actually, just the other day, I watched the very first news feature, and it was hilarious. It was Greenville News, and the guy had the news voice about this treehouse, and it was so funny.
A couple from Walhalla, South Carolina have built a treehouse that they're renting online.
And next thing I know, within a few months, BuzzFeed writes about us, and we made the list for the #1 Airbnb in South Carolina. And I remember seeing that article and just being so pumped. I'm like, yes, I know what this is gonna do for us.
Yeah.
That's big.
BuzzFeed is one of the, they were at the height of their popularity when they said that about us.
And soon after, Travel Insider reached out too. we did a video for them and it had 26 million views within a couple hours. I mean, it was crazy. And I knew that we were onto something. Yeah. And we catch the attention of Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb. And his team reaches out and invites us to come out to Airbnb headquarters in San Francisco. You know, we had all this momentum. He's like, what are they doing? I want to learn from them so that I can empower other hosts to do some of the same things. I mean, I remember it was just one of the first pinch myself moments.
We have to strike while the iron's hot. So if it means, you know, working through the night to like make sure that I reach out to everyone who responded to this thing, you know, I'm gonna do it. And like, this was our time to shine, and you just ran with that. Even though we had one room.
But that one room had a 6-month waiting list. You know, when we realized we needed more, it was like, well, let's look for land. You know, and then how many months later after finding the one, because back to the theme of not settling, you know, where you plant your flag, where you build your tree houses, you can't just pick that up and move it. It's very permanent, it's in the earth. And so we had to find the next piece that was worthy of being chapter 2 of this dream.
If we could snapped our fingers and just had, you know, 5 or 10 more tree houses to meet all this demand, that would have been amazing, and we could have grown so much faster. But we were constrained. We had like some savings, but that was it. So in order for this dream to really take off, we had to get loans from banks, and banks had no idea what to do with the treehouse business. I mean,
should have seen their faces.
They're like, we're not familiar with this asset class. This became just an interesting challenge for me. I was like, I'm going to sell the banks on Bolt Farm.
There were so many nights that I fell asleep while looking at Redfin and Zillow, just on a mission to find our place. And I remember when I found the land that we bought and I showed Seth for the first time, I just knew it had potential. I must have looked at thousands of properties before I found the one.
The starting price was like $500,000. So this is just
for dirt.
Yeah, just for dirt, just for like totally raw land where we're gonna have to bring it all to life. And that was daunting. If we do this and we fail, we're really failing, like we're bankrupt. And I just offer up this prayer. I was like, if we're supposed to do this, will you please give us a sign when we're at the right place? And if it could be an eagle or something, that would be awesome. We've kind of narrowed it down. We think we've found a spot, but it's also just outrageously expensive. And then we walk the property and we share our vision with them. And the real estate agent shows up and he goes, so what do you think? And I was like, well, we really like it. He said, I'll be right back. And he brings the paperwork and he said, someone else wants to buy this property. If you really want it, this is your opportunity to buy it. You know, and puts the paper right in front of me. And I'm like, whoa, this just got real. Like I was not expecting this. These people we just met were not expecting this either. So my immediate thought was like, absolutely not. This is a pressure situation. I'm not gonna do this. I kid you not, like in that moment, in comes a bald eagle and it lands on a tree 50 feet away from us. And it's just perched there, you know, just, and that was the answer to my prayer. And I was like, I got emotional like this. And I was like, this is exactly what I prayed for confirmation. And I gotta sign this. And I don't know where the money's gonna come from, but we're gonna figure it out. This couple who had just met once, who's just experiencing all this for the first time, over the weekend, wired us the money we didn't have to buy the property. So not only was there, you know, like an answer to prayer, but also the provision for, that was a response, I think, to just the act of faith of putting our name on the line.
Not every big idea is a good idea. I think there are big ideas and bad ideas. And while we certainly had the doubters and the naysayers and a lot of no's, there were also a lot of people in our corner being like, this is brilliant. Yes, there were a lot of like sketches and mood boards of the trips, but there were also a lot of spreadsheets and budget forecasts and business projections, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it's not enough to just be like, oh, I feel like this is gonna be a great idea. I'm passionate about it, but like, what's the other side? Is it actually going to work? And having the people in our corner, mentors and seasoned business people who were like, yes, this is a great idea, that allowed us to listen to them and tune out the no's. It
would check so many boxes for our life if we could just bring that to life, if we could do it. So we had a lot of reasons why. The more reasons you can stack for why you should pursue something, the less likely you are to quit when things get incredibly hard. So we're in the process of building 4 tree houses on an island outside of Charleston. I just thought everybody loved tree houses. And we had 35 wooded acres. You couldn't see what we were doing from the road. We were minding our own business and we weren't bothering anybody. If you're driving down the highway or the road, you would never even know that we existed. Little did we know, we're turning this, you know, this quiet island into an internet sensation. And that was not what they had in mind.
They didn't want us to set a precedent. They said if these kids can run a treehouse business, then they're opening the floodgates for anything. And they used fear to create a mob mentality of, if you let these guys succeed and operate their business, kiss your island goodbye. When we first started out in Charleston, there were no Airbnb laws. But what was happening is that they were actually having conversations and getting ready to adopt anti-Airbnb laws that ultimately shut down our business.
Never thought that a group of people would take so much time and money just trying to tear down someone else who's trying to do something that's good for the world. So that was just mind-blowing. Like, I never saw that coming.
When we got word that they adopted these limiting short-term rental regulations, we met with the county and we said, okay, what do we need to do to operate our business? Right? And they're like, oh, well, you just need to rezone your property. I was like, okay, cool, Seth, we just got to rezone our property, having no idea what that meant. And what it meant was political warfare.
So imagine driving home from work every day and seeing signs on the side of the road. It's a big red circle with your name in the middle of it and a line through it.
And when you go through the fire, when your name is being dragged through the mud, that's when you find out who's really got your back.
I'll never forget the day that we went and had our public hearing and the meeting where, that was going to decide our fate. I'll never forget the people who were there with us. I mean, it was less than 10, but they stood for us. It really came down to a situation where it was like, everyone opposed stand, and like the whole room stands up, and then who is in support? And we stood along with our small group, and like those people stood up for us. That's when it matters. That's when you really know who has your back and who's willing to stand by you when it's not the popular thing to do.
We went through one of the most challenging things in our lives during our second year of marriage. I think it would have torn a lot of people apart. It very easily could have. This could tear us apart if we let it, or we can just link arms and be 100% unified, us against the world, and we're never gonna point blame, like we're on the same team always. And we committed to that, and I feel like we came out on the other side stronger. We put our life savings into this property.
And then we borrowed 10 times that amount and put that into the property too.
Right. We had everything on the line. And we also had a calendar that was full of reservations because people book vacations and travel well in advance. And so we had a calendar with at least 3 months of bookings of people flying across the country to stay with us, to celebrate their anniversary, their honeymoon, to propose, or for their birthday. I remember when the county dropped these laws and said, you have to cancel on all these people. You have to refund their money. We're shutting down your business. You cannot host them. I want to be above board, but I'm not going to cancel on these people and ruin their special moment. So what we did was we refunded their money and we hosted them anyways.
We called them and said, hey, you're about to see a refund. We want you to come anyway. We know you've been looking forward to this. You can't pay us anything for this or we can get in trouble. Just come and enjoy. Yeah. I think something we learned from the Charleston experience is that success is actually a very poor teacher, because the first treehouse couldn't have gone better, and now the second development couldn't have gone worse. But we learn more through failure than we ever learned through the success of the first treehouse. So it took a lot from us, but then what was left was everything that we needed for the next chapter. Unfortunately, it took us 2 years to sell that property, and we were bleeding cash all along the way. Going into 2020, the pandemic happens. We didn't fire anyone. We weren't allowed to sell short-term rentals. We could do long-term rentals. We pivoted our business because at the time that the world shut down, all the people who were gonna go on a honeymoon overseas and do some kind of international honeymoon trip, they had nowhere to go. You can stay here for 31 days for the price of a week. That was the only option that we had.
And it worked. Like that literally is what sustained us until we could find our buyer.
If it weren't for that, then I think we really would have been in trouble, because that was how we kept our head above water during 2020.
We're selling long-term rentals in our treehouses to brides getting ready for their honeymoon while looking for our next property. And through a lot of research and conversations, we realized Tennessee is where we want to land. It was pretty painful to start over, especially when we had just spent years of our lives trying to get something off the ground. And instead of getting to celebrate the victory of it or even just run that business, we had to shut it down and literally start over. This is our second chance. Like, I don't think we're going to get another one. This has got to go right. We've got to get it done. So why Tennessee? It kind of goes back to the theme of building a life. We wanted to find a place that would not only make a ton of sense for the business, but also make a lot of sense for our personal lives.
I do a lot of my looking for property on Google Earth because you can literally see what the Earth looks like. And it's hard to tell from like just a listing on a real estate website, you know, where something is and like how it feels and all that, but I can really get that sense looking at a satellite image of it. So Tori, you found
the area from Google Earth with the Rift Valley.
Yeah.
And then I honed in on that area. I drew a big circle on Redfin to say, well, what's available for sale in this area, and found our land, which it still blows my mind that nobody had ever built anything up there. I mean, it was absolute diamond in the rough, so beautiful.
In Charleston, it felt like we were just getting torn apart. We happened to find this area where like literally it's like the earth was torn apart. But like in doing so, it's like a muscle. When you break it down, when you rip it in half, like it grows back stronger. We were growing back stronger. And then we found this place that also had been ripped apart, and it was just so full of beauty, like it flourished. It spoke to us and called out, it was like, this is a great place to build. You know, because everyone can have this incredible view and experience.
We found the land in Tennessee in May of 2020, and we were ready to go. But it took so long to find a bank who would give us a loan because it was the pandemic, because we were a hospitality company, because we had just failed in Charleston. And so we didn't actually close on the property until December. We were already staying on the land. The previous owner said, you're welcome to stay out here. So we did.
And we were homeless, so that was very convenient. We lived in a tent, like a camping tent.
And the way that we were actually even able to get a loan was by making a big bet on ourselves. We're coming up on Black Friday. And I still remember that conversation. Seth was like, it's been a wild year. We've made $0 all year. And I think people are going to spend money between Black Friday and Christmas, but like, who knows what happens after that? So like, if we're going to make money this year, which we need to, I think this is our chance. And so we hired a rendering artist on Fiverr for like $500. And she sketched up and did some 3D tours of what we were going to build, the tree houses and the domes. And we just showed up every day on our property with an iPhone and our dream, telling people, you know, what we were going to create and why. And we made like a little Shopify website. If we can make $500K during Black Friday with these pre-sale reservations, I think that will keep us afloat.
Save the business.
We can save the business because we still had employees and yet nothing to sell. We throw everything at this, and we sold $1 million in pre-sale reservations. And we didn't even own the land. But you know what? We had built so much trust with our guests from the very first treehouse and the guests from Charleston. I mean, especially the guests that we let come for free.
Yeah.
And like all that goodwill was built up, and the trust. And so they're like, they're gonna do it. And it worked.
At the point we got a call from the bank, they'd already seen like $400,000 show up, you know, on their balance sheet into our account. And the banker called and said, hey, he's like, there is a lot of money hitting your account. And I know you guys don't even own the land yet. Like, are y'all selling drugs or guns or something? Like, what's going on here? And I was like, Sid, I'm doing exactly what we said we were gonna do. And I told you, people want this. The world needs this.
And very soon after that phone call, the bank closed on the loan.
So we're trying to build 10 houses during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Like, we had weather challenges with snow and rain and mud, and we had personnel challenges. You know, we found out pretty soon that our general contractor was playing us, and instead of actually making plans and lining up trades, he was just out getting, you know, his next clients, and nothing was planned. Like, we saw him negotiating with the framers in the parking lot on the day that we were supposed to start. Like, there was nothing, you know, set in place. So like, the day that we were supposed to actually start construction, we ended up firing our contractor. When
wildfire scorches the earth, the next spring is always one of the most beautiful. And what gets subtracted is what doesn't need to be there. And then that makes space for everything that does need to spring forth in your life. We had pages of lessons that we took into Tennessee. We know, okay, well, we know that these things don't work and we're never gonna do them again. And also, we can only afford to do what we know is gonna work. And we put all our faith in that.
So we recently held a team retreat because part of our team is on property, and then we have part of the team that's remote. And so a couple times a year we get everyone together. Seeing how full that room was and looking at the photo of 30, 40 people, and that's not even everybody represented, right? A team of almost 60 now, of just incredible people, a stable of stallions, if you will, who have come alongside of us to help this dream really continue to grow.
It's a very eclectic group. And yeah, it's like we're all the outsiders of hospitality. Like we didn't fit in like a corporate structure, or in the same way that with Need to Breathe, we had a song called The Outsiders and an album called The Outsiders, because we felt like we didn't really fit neatly in a box. We are now assembling the outsiders of hospitality who don't really fit neatly in like the corporate hotel box. They see the mission and what's possible, and they want to be a part of it. It's not about your resume. It's not about whether you've worked at the fanciest luxury hotels. It's like, do you have a heart for people? Do you love genuinely serving others, making people's day? Because the skills of, you know, running a hotel can be learned. Like, so we're looking for the right people who have the guts, who are probably like dissatisfied with the way that hospitality is run elsewhere. Literally, people they've lost the plot that like love is a core part of hospitality. We want to help 100,000 people on an annual basis to deepen their relationships and like have a stronger marriage, have a stronger team. Some people said like this stay at Bolt Farm has probably added 25 years to our marriage. That's a big impact. Literally, the work that we're all doing has the potential to have a generational ripple effect, and that fires me up.
Yeah, meaningful work, meaningful relationships. That's the core of everything that we do.
Every time I hear stories like that, I feel like it is the reward for any of the pain and suffering that we've experienced. What gave us the courage to really work through years of hard work and sacrifice was that we knew the outcome that was possible. The volume of good that can come about made any trial or tribulation worth it.
Yeah, and you don't always know what form that impact is going to come in. It's both exciting and humbling to see the way it can take effect.
It's validation for the value of making sure that your work is building something that is bigger than you, something that's going to outlast you and outlive you. That's the case for Need to Breathe. Like, Need to Breathe's not going away just because I'm not in the band anymore. You know, when I left, it was better than ever, and I think it's just going to continue to be. That's something I can be really proud of. It's very encouraging, and that's exactly what we're doing with Bolt Farm. Investing into people, investing into our team, building something that is much bigger than we are. You know, we're here now. There's a whole team of people that are making magic happen as we speak. And I'm so glad that we get to work hand in hand with them, continuing to grow this concept and take it to more places.
And now we're building 11 more tree houses on our property in Tennessee, which will take us from 24 to 35 villas.
I think the next big challenge is starting over from scratch on a new property and bringing all this to life all over again. You know, we've learned so much over the past 5 years here in Tennessee. It's actually refreshing and a cool opportunity to look at a blank piece of paper and then look at just pages and pages of all these scribbles and doodles and things that worked and some that didn't, and be like, okay, what from over here actually deserves a spot at the next property? What did guests absolutely love? We're gonna do that again. There's no guarantee that if we go across the country and start over in a new market and do something new there, that is gonna work. So this is at least a $20 million bet on a new location. We haven't taken money off the table. Our butts are fully on the line. And so we'll be doubling our risk without any safety net. So that's the challenge. That's
true.
The risk.
1 in 4 of our guests book their next stay before they leave property. And if they are compelled to come back before they've even left, like, I think they would come to another location.
My message really is for the dreamers, and it's for the people who do feel like there's something that you were born to do. Show up for hard things and know that who you become in the process is really your greatest return on the investment of time. I am not the same man that I was when we started this.
I can vouch for that.
I mean, we have grown so much.
I am really excited to be able to share our story in an unrushed, very authentic, stripped down way, where people can, you know, just catch a glimpse of, the 6 years of building with zero rewards before we had anything to show for it. All the struggles. I feel like people are impressed with your successes, but they connect with your struggles, and we don't talk about the struggle enough. And so by sharing our story, I hope that people feel more connected to Bolt Farm and to us, knowing all the love that was poured in and all the sacrifice that it took to get here.